Jack Nicholson's career has contained some of the seminal film in Hollywood history, including Chinatown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Batman, The Departed, and his role as Jack in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is considered to be one of the best horror films of all time. Jack's career spans more than half a century, and he's the kind of actor that still gains the respect he deserves at his age, which is no mean feat, and therefore in this week's video we'll cover some of the reasons I believe he achieved his success. So here goes. Jack joined the Players Ring Theatre and began his acting career in his 20s. The bug had caught him and he was determined as anyone to make it. It was a time of freshness and discovery of what acting was all about. It was about meeting new people and being inspired by other people's work. Jack spent his 20s and 30s acting in films directed or produced by Roger Corman, known for bringing hundreds of horror, action and sci-fi exploitation films to the screen, which eventually became classic cults, but at that time for Jack didn't do much to push his career forward. He made around 20 films in the 60s, not just as an actor but as a writer, director and producer, but his career didn't seem to be going anywhere. And although he thought of giving it all up and moving on, Jack stuck to his craft until he finally got his breakthrough performance as an alcoholic southern lawyer, George Hanson, in the classic road movie Easy Rider. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance and developed something of a cult following. The 70s was a period that shined on Jack, and even though he sought roles of the rebel, the anti-hero, against the establishment, he was raking in the nominations for films such as Five Easy Pieces, The Last Detail and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Jack liked playing the little guy who's moved back, squeezed down by the system, but somehow tries to creep back up, move forward and affirm his life. For him, that's where the vitality and sense of adventure had come from, that affirmation of basic human values. The characters that made him famous so far were nothing short of a gallery of flawed men, insecure, dropout, sexually delinquent and cynical, all attached to that era of protest and rebelliousness. He had never had to be handsome or heroic, and so in that sense, Jack, perhaps because he was a late starter, missed out on the roles of the type that went to the better looking kind, and therefore not being especially good looking, he went straight into being a character actor. Always looking to break new ground, Jack performed in a specific sex scene which he showed full frontal nudity and a fairly complete filming of the sex act itself, still unheard of at its time. Audiences and critics seem able to accept more readily that Jack rarely makes movies for the masses. In spite of roles being offered with huge money, he insisted that he did not believe that any of them were right for him. He was never a mercenary actor. For him, the roles which he chose were all about examining events of social consequence. He had always been open about his life, and when his ex-girlfriend wanted to put the record straight to the media, Jack told her, "You must do what you have to do," in the full knowledge that her story could be damaging to his career. Jack believed in hiding no secrets, with the possible exception of the events surrounding his birth. He preferred to tell it straight, the way it was, the way he saw it at that precise moment in time, and by refusing to play the Hollywood game, he left himself somewhat exposed. Jack had always been able to play the guy who had this tremendous ability at any given moment to say, "Why don't you go screw yourself?" And that's what people love about him. He had rituals, one being a devoted, throaty and passionate fan for his basketball group, the LA Lakers. He is their #1 fan and has been for a very long time. He tries to be an ordinary fan without any pretensions, and that means being a highly vocal one. Jack also has a love for reading. He's like an encyclopedia of culture and history and art. During the filming of Batman, Tim Burton said Jack gave the entire cast the confidence and courage to make this film. To watch Jack work is pure education in the true art of filmmaking. In an instant, he could amend his performance at a particular time to give more menace or less as directed. His sex life, I will leave to your imagination. Jack sticks to his friends like glue, and every one of them knows that if they were in trouble, they could count on Jack. He's known among his circle as being generous with his time in giving others a helping hand or advice based on his own hard-earned experience. When Anne-Margaret was dealing with a difficult shot for the film Carnal Knowledge, while lying on the bed, she had to psych herself up to get the correct emotions. Jack solved the whole thing by bouncing violently on the bed, throwing pillows at her and yelling. She actually got frightened of him, and she said it was so unselfish of him to help me like that. Another actress, Mary Steenburgen, who won an Oscar for her role in Melvin and Howard, made an acceptance speech in which she said she owes everything to Jack, who cast her as his co-star in Going South, when everyone else said he was crazy to do so. In the start of the 70s, with the success in Easy Riders and Carnal Knowledge, Jack wanted to remain in the relatively unglamorous new wave of Hollywood. He preferred to remain in the backwaters of the rebellion and subversion. He made no attempt to glamorize himself, even to the point of refusing to wear makeup for his films, and sought no attempt with artificial publicity-inspired biographies that the studios were used to pumping out. At the time, he didn't even have a publicist, which was unheard of when he started to become famous. Jack refused to become a Hollywood commodity in spite of the financial rewards such films offered. Money was secondary to the type of roles he would accept. A man who inspires of his anti-establishment beginnings seemed to have turned into an American institution. Jack Nicholson is unquestionably one of the greatest actors of his generation. In addition to his sheer volume of iconic roles, Jack stands out with the incredible range of characters he has convincingly portrayed. His wide variety of characters have also made him one of his generation's most mysterious actors, as audiences have attempted unveilingly to figure out which of the many divergent personalities they have seen him adopt comes closest to the true Jack. "I'm none of them and all of them," he said. "There's a little bit of me, I suppose, in every part I play. As an actor, you can't help inserting yourself, especially if you love acting." And that's simply the life of Jack.